Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman today announced the National Monetization Plan of 6 lakh crores. Now, what is this plan? What does it mean? And why was there such a show about it? Because she was there, the Niti Aayog Vice Chairman was there, Rajiv Kumar, Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant, and the key secretaries from economic ministries are also there. Now, 6 lakh crores is a bit of money. I mean, 6 lakh crores, just think of India's total budget. India's total budget in a year, which includes all the salaries and expenses of government staff, all of the government employees, etc., 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 electricity bills, maintenance, and also the stuff that government invests in the economy. All that together is just over 34 lakh crores, say for this year, that is budgeted. So 6 lakh crores is 1/6 of India's total budget. I mean, it is a lot of money. Where will it come from? What will it do? Now, that is the kind of money that this National Monetization Plan aims to achieve. What does it mean? Now, if you ask me to go into the intricacies of how these arrangements will be done, how will this monetization, remember this is the reverse of demonetization. This is now monetization. You are converting something that today accounts for very little into money. For example, somebody might have an old Haveli, a rich old feudal family might have an old palace sitting someplace. It costs a lot of money to maintain that palace. It might also cost a lot of money to pay taxes on that palace. It's a waste. It's costing you money, but it's an asset. Now, if you could get maybe a partner, maybe you could get, say, ITC Hotels or Oberoi Hotels or Taj Hotels, somebody to come in, or any other, not to leave out anybody, any other, to come in and say, look, it'll take you 20 years to get land and to build a hotel, get all clearances. In any case, what you build will not be a building that is 200 years old. I've got it. It's a liability on me. But if you can come, you can clean it up, you can refurbish it, you can put the plumbing and wirings and, very important these days, internet, etc., and create rooms and have your staff do everything. It might take you a year or two doing it, but then it will become an asset where people will come, they will rent rooms, they will eat food, they can hold conferences, so money will be earned. That is how a dead asset is monetized. In fact, you see this done all over the place. It's just that who is the biggest holder in this country, in our country, of dead assets? It is Sarkar-e-Hind, it is Bharat Sarkar. Because if you just see government undertakings, government departments, there is enormous amount of assets lying there. And these assets are not just land. Don't make the mistake of thinking, oh, government has so much land, armed forces have so much land. It isn't just land. It is now, assets are pipelines. Assets are optical fiber. Assets are, for example, in a way, even spectrum is an asset. So asset can be anything. Asset can be an old port which has maybe 2 docks, but in the same place you can build 6 more docks. But government doesn't have the money to build those docks. And even if the government does, the efficiency of those docks will be much lower than that of a privately or professionally run dockyard. So that is where government has dead assets. Government has lots of airports all across the country. Airports have a lot of land with them. Some maybe 2 flights land, 3 flights land in a day. That might bring you a little bit of revenue, but otherwise it's an asset which is lying there. So when in the process of decluttering, I am not getting into how the deals are structured, because then you will see TOT, BOT, BOO, OMD, etc. For that, go to the business channels, websites, or their Twitter handles, because they will be explaining that. And also, that is really not for you and me. That is for the specialist people who will be buying into this, who will be investing into this. Most of us will not be doing so. directly. I will tell you how we might do indirectly as we go ahead. But these dead assets, now think of stadiums. Think of stadiums built in Delhi during Commonwealth Games and before that Asian Games. Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium in Delhi, beautiful big stadium, top class, world class, was built during the Asian Games of 1982. The fact is that most of these are rarely utilized. They are utilized maybe not even to their 1% capacity. And in fact, when they have a tournament, you have to go and clean the place up, you have to replumb them, toilets are blocked, water pipelines are blocked, everything is shut. You have to, it's a big operation just to get them ready for one odd tournament or meet or event that might take place somewhere. At the same time, all our cities are short of spaces. Look at the way illegal banquet halls have come up all over our cities because people need social places. So I'm not saying use stadiums for banquet halls, although there are parts of stadiums which can be used as that. But more importantly, use stadiums, as playgrounds. So again, think of a city like Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Hyderabad, Bangalore, big cities, Nagpur. Look at any city in India. Every city in India is short of land, and every city of India, the price of land is very high. So if you set up a school in a city or a college, from where do you get a playground? Because the land which you can afford or which you buy, you try and build as much as possible to get as many students in as possible to earn some money because you have to pay salaries, etc. and run the school. So why do you, too many people running institutions now don't buy land to set up playgrounds. Plus, how many colleges can afford to set up full playgrounds with all facilities, tracks, etc., etc. So if you have stadiums sitting in our cities, these could be leased on a timeshare basis to colleges, schools, etc. So this is my school, my playground is Nehru Stadium. This is my school or this is my college, my athletics track is in such and such place. This is my college, my swimming pool is in such and such place. So that is the way, again, you monetize a dead or a sleeping or a dormant asset. So the most important thing that I'm trying to declutter today is the whole idea of monetizing a dead asset without selling it. So the old feudal who might invite a hotel chain to convert their dead property, a property which is actually a burden on them because they have to pay taxes, they have to pay security guards, they have to pay other staff, etc., etc. Occasionally they might have to clean it also. If that can be turned into a revenue earning property, that becomes asset monetization. That's precisely what government is trying to do. It's a very ambitious plan. I would say on paper it is a positive plan. I would welcome it and I would support it. Although as we go along, by way of opinion, I will also tell you the pitfalls in terms of what can go wrong. Not what is wrong with the plan as in this should be done or should not be done, but I would say where the problems might come up as we go along. Now, first of all, I'm not going into all the details of how much money is targeted to be produced from where, except to say that this plan, NMP, will run co-terminus with NIP, that is National Infrastructure Pipeline. That was launched in 2019 and that is supposed to end in 2025. So that was 6 years. Now 2 years have gone past. So in the next 4 years, this 6 lakh crores has to be raised, of which 88,000 crores has to be raised this year, this financial year, or whatever remains of this financial year, which is a tall order. 1,62,000 crores, which means almost twice as much, is to be raised the following year, that is 22-23. These are big targets, and while the government says that they have special mechanisms, every ministry will have targets, a dashboard is coming up and everybody can track that dashboard. But we know that so far the government has struggled to privatize, to sell assets and to raise funds. Some things have happened, but not enough has happened. So that is a sobering thought. But anyway, now let us see what is being done? Now, bulk of this resource raising will be done by monetizing the assets of highways department, that is roads, railways and power. Now, roads is actually the most successful so far because government is building the roads or government is getting the roads built. That is the National Highway Authority of India. And when you build roads, what you do is, because you can charge toll on the road. So instead of government setting up booths and collecting toll, or maybe giving toll booths to contractors, the idea is to, I'm not going into all the details of various plans, but the idea is get somebody and say, listen, you give me the money lump sum equivalent of what you think you might run in 15 to 30 years from this section of the highway by way of toll. And this is the toll you can charge, and this is how your toll will go up or down or whatever. And if you can raise that money, you can give it to me now. So I have the money now. And meanwhile, you make profits on it by raising more toll. Now the company that pays you that money for that section of the highway will raise that money. So either that money will be raised from banks by way of borrowing, or by way of what is called as investment trusts or real estate investment trusts. So REITs or InvITs, that is INVITs, which become like mutual funds. Mutual funds means somebody says, maybe X bank or X fund or X investment firm says, I am launching a REIT or an InvIT of 20,000 crores, right? And I am putting in 3,000 crores into this. All right. Then those REITs, the units in those can be sold to public or to high net worth individuals. So they become like mutual funds for high net worth individuals, companies, corporates, etc., etc., etc. This is very much like buying into real estate mutual funds or funds that invest into real estate development. Not very different from that, except in this case, the assets are brownfield. What is brownfield? Greenfield is when you build something new. Brownfield is when it's a functioning something. And brownfield, frankly, is a good metaphor for a lot of government assets because they've gone brown over time. They are not yielding much anymore. They look like they are sort of dying and withering away. But you can now green them up and make money from them. And because these are government assets and because these assets already have utility, so you can be more sure of the income on them. So to that extent, REITs and InvITs become good investment vehicles. So once again, it's a way of trying to get private sector money, private funds, including private individuals' funds into infrastructure running, not so much building, but infrastructure running, infrastructure monetization. So it becomes win-win for all and doesn't cost the government any money. In fact, it brings the government money. So the idea is very good, and this is how this is going to work. So this will also involve the giving out, again on the same basis, on asset monetization basis, 25 airports, a lot of the stakes in the existing airports, for example, Delhi, Mumbai, airports which have been privatized, the big airports, that is where most of the revenue of Airports Authority comes in. So you can sell those shares and raise that revenue in lump sum right now, because that doesn't involve any transfer of assets or any transfer of real estate, because in any case government owns only a minority in those airports. Then hydel and solar sectors, how do you do that? I have a dam. The dam is producing so much power. Every year that power gives me so much money. So somebody can say, look, next 15 years, you can put next 15 years or 20 years power production from that dam for auction and get your money lump sum. Use that money to build infrastructure. That is the reason NMP and NIP are running together. And the same thing applies to solar also. Then you can build more of this infrastructure because you don't have to run it, because government is not so hot at building anything. but it's much worse, enormously worse, than running what's been built. In fact, it usually ends up ruining what's been built. Look at the number of PSUs that are making losses. Look at the number of government infrastructure projects that are making losses, except to some extent the national highways, which have got their act together and set a model for others as well. Although there too problems arise, like see what's happened in Punjab, Haryana, and some other parts of around Delhi, where farmers are now forced toll highways to toll collection to shut down. So hopefully that will not happen. That's an aberration. In the course of time that will settle down. So similarly, 31 projects in ports. Once again, government owns the ports, but ports can be run more efficiently. So government continues owning the port. It gives it to somebody to run it, right? But government owns it. This plan is very clear, and I think I might have some questions on that, because this plan, and the finance minister also said again and again, that nothing will be sold. Everything will belong to the government. Now that is, I know why that is being done, and you can see that's being done because any sale of land or real estate, somebody will say, "Arey, family silver has been thrown away. This is a fire sale. घर में आग लगी हुई है, जो जितना मिलता है बेच दो उसको." इसकी तो वैल्यू इतनी ज़्यादा थी. People even now say, "Oh, the value of Air India building at Nariman Point is 5,000 crores, 7,000 crores. क्या फ़र्क पड़ता है?" You can say anything. It's like 15 lakh crore dollars or whatever it was that Baba Ramdev said is floating in foreign banks in terms of Indian black money. It doesn't matter. You can put any number of zeros. So the government is wary of selling any assets. I think I understand where they are coming from, but I would say this is being over cautious. A government with its majority should be doing neater deals and be getting done with it, because any of these deals will be public-private partnerships. And wherever you have public, which is government, wherever you have government, you will have the tyranny of your 3 C's, that is CVC, CAG, CBI, and all the rest coming in. So this is not neat to that extent, but I am explaining to you why the government is wary of selling anything, and what's the reason that the finance minister said about 4 to 5 times in her presentation that, remember, there will be no sale, everything will be returned to us mandatorily, which means the feudal or the old Raja gives the palace to the Oberoi, Taj, ITC, or whoever. If I am not listing others, it's not because I have anything against them. I am just listing the 3 names that come top of my mind. And say you run this as a hotel for 25 years. You make the investment now to convert this into a hotel. You earn money on it for 25 years. Whatever you're going to earn in 25 years, give me a share. Ideally, you securitize what you're going to earn and give it to me lump sum now. So let's be done with it. That is how these deals are being done. So mandatory return of these assets to the government after making money from them. And these are assets which are today languishing or poorly monetized or not fully utilized. Now I can tell you the amounts that are targeted to be raised under various assets. 11,500 from sports sector, railway stadiums also. And I told you, I specifically used the example of stadiums by way of explaining how these can be monetized, because I am so interested in sport and I am so distressed by the fact that too many schools and colleges and universities now have insufficient sporting facilities or infrastructure in the country. So another 12,828 crores from shipping. This is from ports. 20,782 crores from aviation. That is mostly airports and the land around airports, which can be put out to commercial use but not sold. Telecom, 35,100 crores. Once again, telecom has a lot of infrastructure which is currently underutilized. Railways, lion's share will come from the railways, 1.52 lakh crores. That is 1/4 of all the collection, because railway has assets and assets and assets of all kinds, from warehousing to land to guest houses to hotels, all kinds of, to hospitals, all kinds of things which can go into public-private partnership. Warehousing, 28,900 crores. Now that is where I'm very interested and excited about. Because look at Food Corporation of India. It has enormous warehouses all over the country. These are very old, these are very poorly managed. Many of them have finished their life cycle. FCI is broke. It is deeply in debt. That is our grain economy that we've talked about many times. FCI has no money to invest and modernize these warehouses. Logistics is the big business of tomorrow. In fact, today and tomorrow. If these warehouses can be modernized in public-private partnership and government can also get that money up front in terms of the value, then it will be a very good deal. It will not be easy to do because there will be a lot of vested interest that will come in the way. So Food Corporation of India, Central Warehousing Corporation, these have enormous, in fact 2.05 million tons of storage is today being put on the block for public-private partnership. Again, not for sale, so I'm repeating it in fact more number of times than the finance minister said, although I would have frankly preferred a neat sale in most of these cases. Now, 3,930 kilometers of petroleum product pipelines are going to be put in PPP. That should yield 22,500 crore something. Natural gas pipelines. Once again, I have a pipeline. I'm bringing my gas. If you want to bring your gas, why do you need to build another pipeline? You can have timeshare on my pipeline. Just come and ride on my highway, pay me a little rent. And that is how it's going to work. Similarly, 6 gigawatts, that is a lot of power, right? 6 gigawatts, that's 6,000 megawatts of hydel and solar power will be given out like this. That will yield about 39,000 crore rupees. Power transmission, you are a private power generator. You have to transmit over my lines. Somebody can rent my lines on a long-term basis and then further rent these to users and charge them money but pay me upfront. That is 45,000 crores. And the highest share, I told you, lion's share from the railways. So about the same amount from highways. And in fact, that's what I think will be the most productive because they already have a model. Now, I will also tell you what is it that I'm most enthused about, because when I look at these things, I look at the politics of these things, because in any democracy, economics is all about politics. If your political economy is robust, healthy, forward-looking, if your political economy shows instinctive belief in less government control and less of government, then the country goes forward and the economy goes forward. Otherwise, you remain in the doldrums. Doldrums means na aa rahe na ja rahe, khade hue hain beech mein, because when the winds don't blow, then you are stuck. We've been in the doldrums for a long time because our government has not shown the ability to give away. In any case, when they speak the P word, that is the privatization word, they couch it in so many different ways. Now, if you look at this public-private partnership plan for this national monetization plan, once again, they've stopped short of privatization because they are saying nothing will be sold. But in this, there is an announcement which may or may not lead to anything right now because it's a tough one. But I think that's a big political signal. That is, central government has now offered money for any state government that privatizes a state-owned public sector undertaking. Now, we look at these Maharatnas and Mini Ratnas, etc., but the fact, and Navratnas, but the fact is that our state governments have hundreds of chota PSUs which are mostly decrepit and finished. Some might even have value. But again, like most PSUs, producing too little value or too little profit even if they are profitable. So central government has said that if a state government privatizes a PSU, one of its PSUs, and gives up control completely, then the money that it raises by way of privatization, the center will match it by 100%. Which means, say, government of Punjab or government of UP has so many corporations. It sells one corporation to somebody, some value, maybe for 1,000 crores. I don't know if many states have any corporations that will fetch 1,000 crores, but all right, say 1,000 crores, then the central government will give you 1,000 crores, right? So that's an incentive. That is a matching incentive of 100%. On the other hand, if they don't sell it, but they only list it on stock markets, because listing brings in certain amount of transparency, shareholder rights, then central government will give you 50% of the amount that you raise by way of listing. And if you do neither an outright sale nor listing, but you at least do asset monetization on the same basis on which the center is doing its asset monetization under NMP, National Monetization Plan, then the center will give you 33% of the money you raise through asset monetization as your incentive. So this is now the center offering you cash incentive for some of the most radical reform in the states. Now the chances are that most of the states will not do it, because politics at the state level becomes much too fraught. Politics is ultimately fought at the state level, but I do think that some states, particularly some of the BJP-run states which are not heading for elections right away, might be able to do this. But whenever it happens, I don't know. But saying this is a big signal that Modi government is pushing your political economy in the direction of private sector privatization, and the philosophical point that government should not be in the business of running any businesses is now being underlined and made. Once again, it doesn't matter how many states sell their PSUs and how much money is raised. The very fact that the central government is giving India's political economy this direction is something that I am quite happy to celebrate. Now, there will be responses to this, there will be criticism, people will say the usual thing, family silver is being sold out, but I gave you an example. What's the point of family silver? All lying maybe in a cupboard like this to be shown to some neighbors, so neighbors will feel jealous and say, "Kahan se aaya?" But it's of no value to me. But if I can rent it to somebody who can maybe use it to serve some premium guests in expensive barats, but give me the money beforehand and give the asset back to me after a fixed time. What is my problem with giving out family silver like that? Because family silver sitting at home or sitting in a vault or sitting in a cupboard is of no value to man or beast. So once again, interesting ideas, important ideas. I told you there'll be problems. The problems will come by way of litigation. There'll be a lot of PIL, and then there will be complications. For example, I saw Shailesh Pathak, who's a well-known infrastructure specialist, formerly from the civil services. He said that Himachal government, for example, decided to give out its forest rest houses or guest houses in public-private partnership. Very good idea. They are beautiful properties and Himachal needs more tourism infrastructure. But then somebody came up with the argument that how does this work with the Forest Conservation Act? They had not thought about it. So once again, you talk about government guest houses, government assets, etc. There will be a lot of these minefields that will come in, and each minefield will open itself up to litigation. So let us see how much of this happens, but it's a very good move forward.